Nobody wants an open borders policy. Everybody understands that. But without immigration, this country could not function. Could not function. If you look at the National Health Service, that is, if you're unlucky enough to have to go to hospital or have treatment, you only have to look around you and see how many nurses, how many doctors, how many social care workers are not originally from this country. We desperately need them. If you look at agriculture, where post-Brexit, vegetables and fruit were rotting on the trees and in the fields. We had nobody to pick them. And that's because our own labour force is not working. We've got to this ridiculous stage where I think the Times actually put it in a very sort of easy to understand fashion, that if you look at Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people, a Wembley Stadium full of people goes on benefits every 45 days in this country. That's 8 times a year. And so that's a terrible thing. And we should get people out of their homes, off their sofas, studying their fingernails and get them working. But in the meantime, we have to have migration. We have to have fillings. Plus, there are all sorts of other benefits. It's been worked out that actually migrants, if they come to this country, say in their mid-20s, and then have a full working life and pay their taxes and do all of that, they actually add more financially to this country than a native-born Brit, because they haven't had to pay out for education and all of that. But also the tax receipts are higher, and in fact they add more to the GDP than the average British worker does.
Belinda, what are your thoughts on this?
Listen, I'm a big supporter of smart immigration, under 100,000 a year, highly skilled workers who can financially support themselves and do not depend on the British taxpayer to support them financially. Smart immigration where the British government invests in their own domestic workforce first, rather than stripping poorer countries of their health staff, which I think is quite immoral, quite frankly, and stripping poorer countries of their entire, young workforce that they can't develop as quickly as they could. There is a huge problem with this exodus of the skilled workers leaving poorer countries going to rich ones, and it has been massively negative. Mass immigration on this country has been forced on the people without consent, against democratic instruction. So the damage to the ballot box is amazing. The culture shift, social cohesion. There was once a time we had all the wonderful integration and slow-moving immigration into this country, so we had a chance to have that brotherhood. And there have been great success stories. You think of the wonderful, Mo Farah and, Frank Bruno, descendants of immigrants. We are very lucky to have them, but the reckless immigration policies we've had at the moment have been one of the greatest betrayals to the British country in my lifetime.
Wow. But now let's get straight to your calls on whether immigration is good or bad for Britain. A third fewer people came to the UK last year, meaning a drop-off in people wanting to live, work or study here in Britain. Is that a good thing that fewer people want to come here, or a bad thing? Get your calls in now, 0207 862 2222. And we're going to now speak to Stephen in Gloucester on this. Stephen, what are your thoughts? Do you think immigration is good or bad for the UK?
It all depends on the abilities of the person you're letting in. They've decided to cut back on the people that have lesser abilities, but majority of care workers are female. Majority of the people getting off the illegals, the boats, are male. So they're not actually what we want, even if they were to come here and you were to offer them something. It's care workers and nursing staff that were needed.
What's the female-male relationship got to do with it?
Well, how many care workers do you know are male?
Well, I'm sure there's plenty out there. I don't think that sort of is a deciding factor of whether you can be a care worker or not. But I do get your point that we need care workers.
The majority of workers I know are female, and I have them in my family.
Yeah.
Also, as far as the young people in this country, a lot of them, when I'm moving around the county, whatever, I see young people with some people with disabilities. So some of the young people are actually taking up jobs with helping the disability people. They're not just sat back taking benefits.
Are you speaking specifically about refugees here, or just anyone who is coming to the country?
As in what? What do you mean reference refugees?
So who are you speaking about? The care workers, just anyone, any migrant coming to the countries?
If they fit into the band we require them to fit into.
Which I think that most of them do. It's less than 1% of people that arrive here on small boats. So most of the people, the stats that we're speaking about today, 99% of them are coming through the proper routes and, have got the correct qualifications and the sort of skill set that we need.
Yes, but the government is trying to cut back on these people that are not as skilled as they would like.
Okay. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for your call this morning. Let's go to Andrew in Sussex. What do you think?
Yes, I would like to say that my father came here in the early 60s and he got straight into working hard to produce a really good input into this UK government. And after that, I'm second generation. I studied and I began and I started a business and I employed 15 people. And I paid into the government's, tax system and everything. And I'm proud of what I've done. And I'm second generation.
Absolutely.
And, it depends on what. If you take your opportunities when they come to you, I think that, somebody who's coming as, through the immigration, legally, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you take your opportunities, you can actually add to what the government and what the British people are trying to do. And I think that we're looking at this in the wrong way. We're just looking in a negative way. We need to be positive. And if people want to come here to add to what the Britain is doing, I think that's a good thing.
But I completely agree with you in terms of people coming over here, contributing, working, amazing. There's no problem with that. The problem is the numbers, the swell of people in such a short amount of time, and the failure of the government to provide the infrastructure or to provide integration plans or to take any care at all about how such huge numbers are impacting the people already here. I think that's what's making people very angry. There's just no plan. The hospital spaces, the prison spaces, our country is bursting from the numbers. We are actually only a very small island compared to a lot of countries in Europe, and we just cannot take the numbers. So I do think there is a huge amount of support for cutting. 431,000 Labour's celebrating. That's a city the size of Bristol every year. Only 271,000 houses are being built. There's too many people.
Don't forget that since Brexit, the Tory government thereafter, they quadrupled.
Absolutely.
That's why they lost the
election.
But also Brexit. The year in 2019, how many people arrived by boat? Do you know that?
Well, across Europe, the numbers have been very similar.
No. In that year, 2019, before Brexit,
very few.
The number of boat people that arrived were 1,800.
Yeah, same with Italy, same with France.
So if you voted for Brexit, you reap what you sow.
That's
frankly.
not why has Italy and France got a massive illegal immigration problem?
Because they're closer to where the migrants are coming from.
That is why there is a rise of the right across Europe.
I know there's a rise of the right across Europe, and I know, and it's a global problem. Will continue to be a global problem.
As long as immigration is ignored.
You cannot say that what's happening in this country is down necessarily to the global problem, which hasn't just started since 2019. The global problem has existed for decades. So Brexit has really affected us. And then the Tory government, Boris Johnson, you can blame him. If you voted for Boris and you voted for Brexit,
I'm really sorry, I have to come in here because this is just peddling. I'm really sorry, but this is just not true at all.
This is absolutely true.
Brexit gave the government the gift to control borders. They took that gift, they flushed it down the loo, and they decided to open the borders up. That is on the Conservative government. Nothing to do with
Boris
Brexit.
Johnson. It is to do with Brexit.
It isn't. Anyway, either way, we're not going to talk about Brexit.
We don't have the relationship with Europe that we had before.
The Dublin Agreement's dead in the water.
Nothing to do with the Dublin Agreement.
Why is every country suffering from the same
Andrew, let me jump in. Thank you so much for your call, and you raise a very good point. There's lots to celebrate when it comes to migrants and what they give us. Jean in London, what are your thoughts of this? Is migration good or bad for Britain? Hello, are you there? Maybe not. Let's move on to John in Birmingham. Tell me, what do you think?
Oh, I know how to solve this problem within one day.
Oh, go on then.
Morning. Oh, by the way, sorry. Good morning to all you lovely ladies.
Good morning.
Tell me, go on. One day solution we've got here.
Sorry, say that again.
What's your 1 day solution?
Right, basically, the French can't wait when they jump on the boats because I've seen it on the news the other day. The British are paying for a beach buggy to be patrolled all the way along. One police officer, and he ignored, and next thing you know, there was a boat full of people. It's quite obvious. You get the British Army, a couple of regiments, put them along all the borders, they find a boat, burn the boats. No boats, no more coming over. It's simple as that. The French can't wait to get rid of it. Right, okay. So I understand.
John, let me just interrupt you, because what you're speaking about here is illegal immigrants, and actually we're speaking about immigrants that come through the sort of the correct channels. So that's just like, you know, a very small proportion of what's happening. So thank you so much for your call. But let me speak to Nikki in Lincolnshire. Nikki, what are your thoughts on this? Are migrants, do they add value to the UK, or do you think we should be reducing that number? No, Nikki, either. You're not there. Everyone's disappearing on me. Let's go to Valerie. Valerie in East Midlands. Alan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Alan. You haven't hung up on me.
No, I haven't. Good afternoon, ladies.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Seems to be a lot of gentlemen phoning in on this policy, isn't there?
Mm.
Right. I would agree with quite a lot of them, really, is that what they've said so far. But immigration and migration has to be balanced, as we are only a small country. Mm-hmm. And yes, we want quality people coming in with some good skills. But we can't overdo that when there's no houses for them to live in. And if we build houses, where do we put it? They'll be on land that the farmers use in the end, and then we'll be buying off foreigners to bring our food in. So we've got to balance our farming and our hospitals. Everything must be balanced. Nobody's questioning how much room have we got in the UK in the next 100 years.
Do you think that's a good point?
Well, I agree with that, but then we do need to have a cultural refreshment. If we were just plain English, or plain Scots, or plain Welsh, or plain...
Why does that have to be a bad thing?
No, because it's it's not a bad thing, but it's a better thing to have a cultural diversity. I mean, we would still be eating really boring food, frankly, if we were just...
Always comes down to food.
It comes down to food. But if you look at the sort of the real positive advantages of refreshing and new people coming in and new ideas and new cultures.
Like blasphemy laws, like sectarian politics.
No, it's not.
It has been reckless. There has been amazing immigration from amazing, but there has been serious
I know
issues
nothing
in
and
this
care little
country.
for football, but more than half of the England football squad can claim nationality in another country. So that's think about the music. Look at sort of like Dua Lipa, Rita. These are people who have come into our country.
I'm going to jump in again because I can feel you two are just gearing up for a next round of talks. Thank you so much for all your calls on that.